Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah. I'm the Board Administrator for the Texas State Board of Examiners of Marriage and Family Therapists. I'd like to start with a roll call. Chair Hampton.
Present.
Dr. Barty.
Present.
Mr. Castro.
Here.
Dr. Elder.
Present.
Thank you. Mrs. L.
Present.
Dr. Merchant.
Present.
Mr. Price.
Present.
Ms. Rania.
Here.
And Ms. Richardson is on her way. That completes the roll call. Chair Hampton.
Welcome. Call to order the May 29th, 2006 Marriage and Family Therapists Board meeting. You probably see a new face. This is not an error. Well, maybe it is, but I have the humongous and impossible task of succeeding Dr. Lisa Merchant. Dr. Merchant has been chair for 5+ years, has served ethically, with passion, professionalism. She has been a great leader, not just a leader, but also with thought leadership. And so I can never hope to fill those shoes. But certainly I expect to fulfill this role with humility and try to live up to the example that you have set. So on behalf of the entire board, thank you for your service. I'm personal privilege, and I know it's a little early in the continue to be taking personal privilege, but I want to personally and publicly thank you as well. When I came on the board, you encouraged me, you embraced me as a new member, just as a leader should do it, and certainly I appreciate that. And then as part of the transition, you were selfless, patient with me as I needed, and just a model of what a leadership transition should look like.
Thank you.
So I thank you for that, and you've earned the right to be my forever chair and my personal friend. Thank you.
You leaders make me tear up. I logged in as an attendee. It's been an absolute honor and a privilege to serve as chair, and it's been fun, and I have no regrets. And I think you're going to be an excellent leader. Just even like these 6 or 8 weeks that I've kind of seen things happening behind the scenes, like you've shown tremendous leadership skills, and I have full faith in your ability to lead this board.
Thank you. It means a lot. To be determined, but it means a lot. Staff has been wonderful as well, propping me up and prepping me. I knew we had a wonderful staff, but certainly when you sit in the chair role and you get to see close up in person and how wonderful staff is, and so I certainly appreciate their efforts as well. So with that, I think we'll move to public comment. I don't see anyone in the room, so we'll go to online and on the phone. 3 minutes, public comment.
So for those of you that, we have an attendee that's texted and said that it's difficult to hear. Do you have any?
Our audio is fine.
Okay, I'll speak up a bit, maybe it's, so for those of you who are attending by the Zoom meeting, please use the raised hand feature. It's in the bottom navigation bar on your screen. We'll call on you one at a time. Once all those individuals who have raised their hands in Zoom have an opportunity to make public comment, then we'll see if anyone has called in by telephone, and we'll check on if they have public comment to provide. As a reminder, this public comment period is not to discuss any particular application or any particular complaint, but general topics that are under the jurisdiction of the board. The board members may ask questions, but it's not intended for a discussion and question and answer session with the board members. So again, I'm looking at attendees who are here attending via Zoom. Please use the raise hand feature if you have any comment. Seeing no hands raised, I will move on to looking for anyone who is attending by phone. I see none. It appears that concludes public comment.
Okay. Excellent, thank you. So let's move right into reports on general matters. Report from the board chair. I don't have much today. I know there were several individuals that attended conferences, so we can get an update from those conferences. Dr. Merchant, start with you.
So I attended the TAMFT conference in April. Yeah, in April, and Sarah was there as well. I just gave a presentation on just like rules updates, and the presentation went really well. I talked a little bit about the Childs v. Salazar, as well as the changes to, not the changes, but just the kind of the guidance that BHEC had put out regarding gender affirming care. And I mean, I was not met with pitchforks, I'll just say that. Like it, the conversations, I mean, people just seemed curious and open, and it was good. It was a good conversation and a good presentation. I talked a little bit about the radical plan in the CEs, and I got lots of positive feedback about that. So overall, I felt like it went really well. It was a good presentation. So, Sarah, did you have lots of visitors to your table?
The normal amount.
Okay.
I don't remember being swamped at any particular time, kind of just trickled.
Yeah.
One or two people came by and there were a number of comments about CE Broker.
Mm-hmm.
There was one comment that they loved CE Broker, it helped them get organized, but just that one.
Yeah.
So I told them, get Gold Star. So yeah, it was a good conference. We're able to help some people with coming from out of state who were visiting the TAMFT conference for the first time, and they're gearing up to get their Texas license. So we're able to direct them in the right direction. So it was good to help some people out.
Yeah, good.
Excellent. Dr. Elder, you attended the TCA conference. Any update you want to provide to the board?
We had a good turnout for the updates from the MFT board. We had some really great discussions and questions, and no, that was it. I really appreciate the opportunity to represent the board at that conference, and they always express appreciation for our presence.
Excellent. Any others?
Yeah, I also did a presentation at TAMFT in April on using Bowen strategies in supervision, and went real well.
Excellent. Others? We will move to 4B. The BHEC update. So I'll just give a quick summary, and then Dr. Merchant, you can chime in as you're here as well. I think there was one big takeaway from there, which was around staffing of the ISCs from the board. I think I have an agenda item later to talk about restructuring some of the committees, and I think this is one of the items I'd already kind of had on my mind, which is making members available outside the ethics committee. Currently, we kind of staff the ISCs with the ethics committee members. Just broaden that out so we've got spreading the workload. I think that was part of the BHEC discussion. And another thing I think we'll talk about later is really aligning our proposals and adoption of rules to align with, I guess, BHEC's adoption of a cadence. We kind of want to align with that cadence and have our own cadence as well. So those are two takeaways from BHEC for me. And Dr. Birchall, you got any others?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I did not know that Patrick was the SciPact chair, so I think that's super cool that we have that. So that's what I learned at the BHEC meeting. I also was gonna say the same thing about the rules, trying to align our rules so that we only make rule changes one time per year as opposed to like multiple times per year, just to kind of ease the burden on staff. We also I've decided to take no action at this time on like ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. So I think that's kind of an important update. And then I'm going to use this as an opportunity to ask about SAM, the AI chatbot.
Yes.
Or would you rather I ask that at a different time?
Well, it depends on what you ask.
Whisper in his ear.
Well, if I can't ask, then I will just ask, well, for the public who might not know, like the state of Texas has developed this new AI chatbot called SAM that you can ask it like regulatory questions. And I've been playing with it for the last 24 hours or so. And it's actually like, I'm actually really impressed with it.
It's good.
But I did have a couple of questions because the intent is to embed it in the website. And so I guess 2 questions is like, what problem are we trying to solve by embedding it in the website? And then 2, does this constitute a response from the board? And is there a way to make that, if it does not constitute a response from the board, is there a way to make that clear so that people don't think, well, Sam told me. Does that make sense?
The first answer to your question about what problem is it solving is it's a workload and a call email
Call volume.
volume problem. Yeah. A lot of the stuff that we get asked can be handled through automated chatbots like this. That can, how many ethics hours do I need as an LMFTS?
Yeah.
That can easily be handled by Sam. Now Sam can actually handle much more complicated questions than that, but it's one of the reasons I wanted an AI chatbot on the website is to handle those FAQ questions that we get all the time that are very repetitive and just suck a lot of time out of your day. Mm-hmm. As far as putting something on there, now you'll notice that anytime you enter a query into SAM and it comes up with a response, it'll tell you this is not legal advice. And it's very good about telling you if it's not sure how to answer your question, you need to contact the board.
Yeah.
For that. It is designed for government agencies. It's based off of a Trajan database. But we can add something. We certainly can. I will say this, it's already out there.
Yeah.
When I talk about embedding it, we're not turning something loose.
Yeah.
This new.
Right.
The public can already access it. They would get the same answers whether they went to Trejo's office and accessed SAM directly or whether through the embedding of us. So we can do that from a very practical standpoint. I'm not sure what good it would, I'm not sure that it adds much to the equation, but we can put that on there.
I just think about things like, I just remember a particular time where we had one former employee who put something in an email and then for years, people would bring that email and say, according to this email.
Try to feed it back to you.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm just wondering if wherever we embed it, if we say this does not constitute a response from the board or something along those lines, just so that people don't try to say, which again, so far it's been incredibly accurate, incredibly detailed. It has pointed out things that nuances to questions that I didn't even think about. So far I've been really impressed with it. I just would hate for someone to be for it to give an errant answer and somebody say, well, I don't know.
It will eventually. We just need to accept the reality. It's going to give a wrong answer at some point.
Yeah.
Part of the problem with kind of putting all the legal, slapping the legal stickers on something that says, don't stick your finger or foot under the mower, all that kind of stuff is I worry about it maybe undermining the whole reason why we put it out there. If you put a big old banner that says,
don't trust this,
it might not give you the right answer.
Yeah.
They're just going to call us anyway. And now we've undone what we're trying to do. So,
and technically we do have a rule that says,
yes,
you're still responsible for all the decisions you make. You can't blame AI for.
The board does not speak but through these meetings and its
exactly.
rules.
Yeah.
It is really what the law is, but that doesn't provide a lot of comfort to somebody who got a wrong answer from an AI endorsed chatbot. So.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's it. I don't have anything else. Yeah.
Board Administrative Report, staff, 4C.
Robert, do you want to give a report on CE Broker?
Sure, yeah, a couple of updates on some of the hot topics. So on CE Broker, we are moving forward. We are hearing the complaints that folks have. So generally speaking, the vast majority of our licensees who have had to enact with CE Broker and had to renew have done so and have done so without problems and without contacting us. It is a fairly well-run program and smooth operation. There are folks who struggle. Our customer service team is well-versed in it and are answering the common questions and helping people get through it. We have a how-to guide directly showing step-by-step how to upload the documents that are required. So largely successful, largely supported by staff in terms of information people need. We are also working with CE Broker to improve things where we can. So one thing I can let folks know, Sarah's putting up the website. We've got on the main website, there's a renewal page, and on that page you can get to our continuing education reporting page. And that page has a lot of useful tips and the how-to guides, so folks should go there. CE Broker has just recently put out a phone number for folks to call. It is not, we don't have it on our website because you have to be logged into your CE Broker account. But when you are logged in and you go to the help page, one of the biggest complaints folks had was if they just had a basic free account, you had to get help through an email. There wasn't a phone to call. Now there is a phone with live people that you can talk to, and so that's been one improvement that should make a big difference. I'm waiting on updated statistics, so I don't have them for you right now, but we should be in the neighborhood of 50% of licensees have activated their account and are using them. So we have the real impact that we can see is there have been an uptick in people who don't get their renewal done on time and therefore go delinquent. But they can renew the next day. It just means they pay a late fee for having waited until the last minute and not renewing. And we don't see that significant of an increase. We're talking in the realm of 100 or 150 extra out of 5,000 a month renewing. So.
And do you think that's directly related to the CE Broker?
It's the only thing that I know has changed, but we weren't really tracking the month to month, so I couldn't tell you for certain where the ebb and flow is. We often see an increase in applications in May, and so I would expect there to be an increase in renewals in May, and therefore that number might tick up naturally. But the only thing that's really changed is CE Broker, so it's probably the growing pains of people getting used to the system.
And remind me, when do we think we'll be at cruising altitude, so to speak, on everybody having to have renewed through it after 12 months?
By January of next year, we should have pretty much everybody will have, yeah.
It'll be associates would probably be the only people we're still trying to
Right,
capture.
associates will be new to it because they won't have had to do CE
Okay.
before.
Well, they won't know any different.
Oh, yeah.
Can associates pre-register, or do they need to wait until they're fully
No,
upgraded?
they wait until they're upgraded.
Okay.
They won't have a
Good.
account associated.
Good, thank you.
I'd like to share with the board and everyone, we've enhanced, at the last meeting, it was discussed and asked for an enhancement on the rulemaking page. So I'd like to share that with you from our homepage. This third link in the gray area, rulemaking at the council. And if you scroll down a bit, you can see proposed rules and recently adopted rules. And we were asked to enhance the website so that you could see what the changes were. And Mr. Romig has included a link to the proposed amendments so you can see the underlined text that indicates text that was added or struck through text. Of course, I won't find one in this one, here we go. Or struck through text to show you what was to be deleted. So that shows you what was intended, and then you can also check this link here is the adopted final text of the rule. So it will show you what was proposed to be changed and show you what the final adoption was.
Thank you. That's
Yeah,
nice.
thank y'all very much.
Very nice enhancement. I'd like to bring to your attention about the fifth or sixth one from the bottom, the workforce survey is open, and so if you haven't completed that, then go ahead and complete that one. Also would like to thank Ms. Brenda Skiff and for completing the updates to the consolidated rule books. New rules were effective on March 18th, and the new rule book was posted on March 25th. So if you've downloaded a PDF in the past, you want to make sure to go back to the site and download this current one. Also wanted to bring to your attention, I'm going to go back to the home page by clicking on the masthead and bring to your attention the link to, no, I can't find it. I was looking for the link to advanced registration for disaster relief. Wasn't it there?
No, it's not live.
It's not live anymore?
No, it's
Okay.
not. We only activate it on the
Disaster
website,
preparedness.
I think.
It's third from the bottom.
What do I know?
It was a trick question. So we're right around the corner from hurricane season and then after that wildfires. So if you're inclined to provide disaster relief, please go ahead and register for that now and get any training that those organizations require, so that you're in a position to help when or if it strikes. I've provided for the board members reporting on the leadership listening that occurred on March 12th and May 19th. If you have any questions about those reports, be happy to answer those questions. And you have a number of other written reports, and if I can answer any of those questions, I'd be happy to.
Can I give a great compliment to how the website has evolved over time? It used to be so clunky, and it's rich now, and have done a great job in the way it's displayed, moving through it. I mean, it's for dummies, and it's great because I can go through it really easily. But compliments to all the staff and whoever's overseeing that and tweaking it and modifying it. It's really, really good.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Wave your hand, McGregor.
You the man.
That concludes my report.
Any questions for staff? I've made a request, I guess, to change the dates of the 2027 meeting. May 28th is the Friday before Memorial Day, so I thought it would be best not to have a meeting going into the long holiday.
Sure, thank you.
So
Yeah.
I've asked to move that one to May 21st. There's no objections. And then the September meeting, I've asked to move a week out to October 1st, and that's more to accommodate, quite frankly, some conflicts that I personally have. So any objections to those changes?
I'll send an email reminder to the board members just when you're back home and have your calendars handy, and we'll get those posted on the webpage.
Excellent.
I will note, Mr. Chair, just because we've been having conversations about the scheduling across the boards. We all, I think, can understand that you come for one meeting, we have 5 to juggle. Some of you come for 2. So we may reach out in the future about potential scheduling changes if we're trying to harmonize some things, but we will run anything by y'all first.
Good. I'm flexible on that October 1st with the Memorial Day is kind of.
We like having holidays too. So.
We like those.
Reports from committees. So we will start with the Ethics Committee. Chair Dr.
Yes, so the Ethics Committee met on April 30th. We reviewed 6 cases. The decisions on them had been 5 dismissals and 1 warning letter, and all committee members in attendance agreed with the decisions that were made by the staff. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Ethics Committee Chair? Report from Licensing Standards Committee, Dr. Merchant.
Yes. So we met one time, there was a request to modify an eligibility order. So essentially there's an associate that is required to get face-to-face supervision, and that creates a financial strain. And so she had requested to have that modified. And so we did amend the order so that only 1 session a month has to be in person and the others can be virtual. And then I approved 2 study plans. And then I have a question about that too. If I remember correctly, at the last BHEC meeting, we decided to do away with study plans. What's the timeline on that?
So it will be proposed, I believe it's being proposed in June.
Okay,
And so it'll be adopted in October.
okay, thank you. And so that is the report from the Licensing Standards Committee. Any questions from anyone? Okay.
Thank you. You're still on tap?
Yep. So
Outreach Committee?
so for the Outreach Committee meeting, we did not meet. We were supposed to meet, and then I think like everybody got sick on like that day or something. Something happened and we were unable to meet, and we're not able to reschedule. The main thing that I want to draw y'all's attention to is the results from the supervisee survey. I guess I'm gonna, would y'all like a summary of the results of the supervisee survey, or did y'all have a chance to read it?
Summary would be good.
Okay, I'll do a summary. So basically last year we sent out a survey to LMFT associates and people, also LMFTs. And if they had been under supervision in the last 5 years in Texas, then they were eligible to complete this survey. And so essentially, basically we're just kind of asking about like their preparedness for, supervised clinical practice. We're asking about rates of insufficient and harmful supervision, exploitive practices, supervision costs, just kind of trying to understand like kind of their experience with supervision. And I don't remember how many we had respond. I think it was two. Hang on, I have it here somewhere. How much was it?
247.
I was gonna say it was that's what I was gonna say. It's like around 250. So we had 247 people respond, which is a pretty good number in my opinion. Anyways, the basic results are one, is that master's education does not mostly or completely prepare associates for all 27 clinical and ethical tasks identified in our board rules. Of the people who responded, only 1% of participants felt completely prepared by their master's program for all 27 items at graduation. After 2 years of supervision, though, nearly 50% of participants reported that supervision had prepared them for all 27 tasks. That doesn't mean that they were not prepared. That doesn't mean that only 50% were prepared, because other things could have prepared them, besides for supervision, but that they contributed their preparedness to supervision. We also found that while supervision is a financial burden, overall supervisees do find the cost reasonable, and that only a small proportion find it too expensive compared to its overall value. And even the participants that are paying like the most were still really happy. So like there were some people who were paying like $130, $150 an hour, and even they were finding the cost not, that it was worth it. You know what I mean? That what they were getting in return, there was still value in it. The participants who were paying $50 or less were the ones who were most satisfied with their rate. And then usually whenever it hit like 75 to 100 is where you kind of saw a decrease in people reporting that they no longer found the cost to value ratio appropriate. So only 1% of people rated supervision as not valuable at all, whereas 68% of respondents rated it as very valuable. We also asked about inadequate supervision, and so when asked directly if they experienced inadequate supervision, only 7% answered affirmatively. But then we had like a measure that we used, and that measure found that actually maybe about 80% of people might be experiencing some level of inadequate supervision. However, only like 7% are experiencing like where they answered negatively on almost all the questions. Most people were somewhere of a mix. So they were getting, some elements of supervision they were receiving, and then maybe a handful of elements of supervision they were not receiving. So anyways, in terms of harmful supervision, we had 3 questions that asked about harmful supervision. Again, when asked directly if supervision was harmful, only 2% answered affirmatively. But whenever we used But when I asked them to rate the harmfulness, 8% indicated some level of harm. And then whenever we had them identify actual harmful practices, 19% selected at least one harmful supervision practice. So basically what I'm taking from both of these is that supervisees might not even always recognize when they're receiving inadequate supervision, or they might not always recognize when they're even receiving harmful supervision. So the next element was there were several rules that were affirmed through this. So participants indicated that telephonic supervision is just as effective as in-person supervision and virtual supervision. So that affirms that recent rule change. 75% of participants favored the limit of 6 or fewer supervisees in group supervision. So that affirms that. Only 9% favored no limits whatsoever. And let's see here, only 1% of participants reported engaging in no continuing education activities. And And so again, there was some kind of concern or pushback whenever we went to the 5-year LMFT associates because they no longer require associates to get CEs. But basically they're doing CE activities, even though they're not required to. And then finally, the last thing we asked about was kind of rule recommendations, and they made several rule recommendations. The most promising were just somehow communicating to supervisors and supervisees, like what is harmful supervision, what is inadequate supervision, like what are these 27 ethical and clinical tasks that we need to be doing, and what are exploitive practices, just kind of like better education for both supervisors and supervisees. They also requested templates or examples of like hours logs and things like that. And then they also advocated for things that are, or asked for things that are outside of our jurisdiction, things like being able to be included on insurance panels, or to limit how much a supervisor can charge for supervision, which we don't have the power to do any of those things. So anyway, so my recommendation to the board would be that we go forward with the supervisor survey, where we ask supervisors about their experience of supervision, and that way we kind of have asked both sides of this dyadic relationship, and then from there maybe make decisions about if there are any rule changes that are necessary or if we just maybe need more guidance documents on our website. So that concludes my report. Questions, comments?
Just curious, have we conducted a survey like this before?
No.
And if so, no, so this is the first, so this is our baseline. If we do
It is.
another in 2-3 years.
I know, that's what I was thinking. Well, some of these things I was wondering, like, is this where we want it? You know what I mean? Like, I can't think of an example now, but like there are a couple of comments I wrote in there, like, is this where we want this number, or would we rather this number be higher or lower? And are there things that we could do to better educate so that, we are getting maybe less people experiencing insufficient supervision or less people experiencing harmful supervision. So
I remember doing the survey, but I don't remember when I did the survey, and so I don't remember this next question.
Yeah.
Are we able to tell where the survey came from? Which part of Texas? I mean, the whole urban-rural thing, and how that may play into this too?
yeah, one of the questions was on, and I have the results here somewhere. One of the questions was like the breakdown between rural, urban, and suburban. And I don't remember the exact percentages, but as you would expect, a smaller percentage was from the rural communities as it is from the suburban and urban.
Right, but I wonder if because of that, that influences how people's take on their experience of, being supervised.
Well, and there could be.
There's only one supervisor in that area, and they just kind of operate as the king or queen. That could make it frustrating.
People can get their supervision virtually now, so in theory, if there's ways to find your supervisor, there's lists of supervisors and such on the board's website. So if somebody new to look, and hopefully their professors are able to kind of guide them to the EHAC website and find that, they could find a supervisor outside of their geographical area.
Yeah, and also to that point, I wonder, are the universities putting that out there? Are they letting students know that? Is the TAMFT letting people know that?
Well, and of course, students don't need to be in TAMFT or
Right,
any
right.
professional org, so,
Right.
hopefully the universities are.
Well, I can only speak for my university. I mean, we try to educate students about how to find a supervisor. And I do know that like TMFT does have like, I think on their website, they try to do some like supervisor connecting of, and I know they've like in Dallas a few months ago, they hosted like a mixer, you know what I mean? So that if you were a supervisor, you could come, and if you're a supervisor, you could come, and hopefully y'all could do like some speed dating stuff and like connect. So
We'll have a better term. We will come up with a better term.
I've got a question, it's kind of an odd question. So we've got the data, I know we still have to do a supervisor survey potentially. But given the outcomes, if you could have one item, only one, to table on the agenda for this board to consider, what would that be?
besides for conducting the supervisor survey.
Yeah, no, outcome as far as action that we would
Oh,
take.
Here.
Action from this particular survey to change, rule change, whatnot.
Our draft.
I really like the idea of somehow educating our licensed supervisors and supervisees about like about the supervisor relationship, about the avoiding how to avoid a harmful relationship, how to avoid exploitation, how to actually make sure that you're like providing adequate supervision. I just think about some of the issues that we've seen come through the ethics committee, where supervisors aren't, signing the documents that they need to sign, or they're not filling them out completely, or, we have asked multiple supervisors for their supervision log, and they've said, I'm sorry, the what?
Okay.
Or we've said, where's the supervision file? And they've said, we have to have a file? And it's like, I just wish there was a way,
Education checklist,
Yes.
okay.
yeah. Go ahead.
Education on what a good and bad relationship is,
Yeah, on what,
on both sides.
yeah, on both sides. Like what makes this relationship work? How do we help associates be able to meet the clinical and the ethical guidelines? Like just kind of more education on all those things.
There are some research articles more to the associate or potential associate. I think I can speak to my experience. I didn't know what I didn't know
Exactly.
about what a good or a bad supervisor is.
Yeah.
I didn't know when I was interviewing what to ask them for or what to look for. There are some research articles out there, and I do my best to propagate those to potential associates, but that feels like something that almost the universities would have to help us set them up for, because once they're done with their education, then sort of you take the exam and the next step is to find a supervisor. But yes, we need to have better supervisors, but it would
Yeah.
also really benefit associates to understand better what it is that they are in need of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What action might be reasonable to inform universities of the results of this survey, so that it could be addressed in the training aspect before they move into licensure?
I mean, I think that if we do the supervisor survey, once we have like a more complete picture, I mean, I think even hosting a presentation where we say, this is the data, doing a presentation at TAMFT or, but I mean, even just hosting something for universities, for supervisors, for associates. I mean, I just think just hosting events and inviting people to it, perhaps.
Perfect.
So here's another question. We do, someone,
I think Jody started.
Dr. L, did you have something?
I didn't mean to interrupt, Mr. Hampton.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I did
So
my vice chair.
I would just want to piggyback on what Dr. Merchant just said, in that I think going to the professional conferences like TMFT, and TCA has a specific division for supervisors. They host a conference that's very well attended every year. And so I think maybe having a presence there. And then the other thing that came to mind as Dr. Merchant was talking was, I think that our online presence, like the listening hour, sometimes when it's a hot topic like this, those are very well attended. So maybe if we host something like that and advertise it well enough in advance, we'd have a number of associates and supervisors who could come virtually for maybe a lunch hour presentation to get this word out. Just my thoughts. Thank you.
So if I can summarize, this is really not a rules discussion. This is more of an outreach discussion, education.
Right.
Okay.
I agree, yeah.
So who's responsible for training the supervisors?
They have to do a 40-hour supervision training course. Some of them do it through their university, some of them do it through WMFT, some of them just do it through like anywhere else they would get CEs. And so that's the requirement, is they have to complete that 40-hour training.
And then they get
And then they get their LMFTS.
But this would be ongoing training.
Yeah, this would maybe
Opportunities.
be an ongoing training opportunity or just an ongoing information.
To refresh, especially if the
6
rules
hours of
change and
CEs,
stuff like that, yeah.
All supervisors are required to get an additional 6 hours of CEs every time they renew.
Dr. Borti, Professional Development Committee.
Yes, and I'm also we did meet, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Merchant to continue, because she kind of ran primary on what we're doing with that.
Yeah, so in the Professional Development Committee, we discussed the continuing education radical plan. And basically, between last meeting and this meeting, I went to the other three boards and tried to pitch the radical plan. And I will just say, Will, you were absolutely right. I should have changed the name from the radical plan.
Oh, no. Semantics
I know.
and speed dating.
Yes, yeah.
That's 2 for 2.
I should have changed it to something like the way things were for 40 years up until a few years ago or something. I don't know, plan. Yeah. Anyways, I did go to all three boards. I'm going to actually probably call on Robert here in a minute to chime in. At two of the boards, I was a part of the conversation. I basically gave the presentation and they're like, okay, bye. And so then I logged off and Robert got to stick around for kind of what the after conversation was. I did get to have a little bit of conversation with the psychology board, and they had lots of reticence, I would say. Mostly, again, kind of this idea that, like, even if a guardrail isn't a true guardrail, at least it has the appearance of a guardrail. And so,
Some deep thought there.
yeah, so, yeah. Anyways, do you want to say more about what your impression was of the response to this? And then
Sure.
and I have other things to say, but go ahead.
Happy to. No, I think the biggest
Pushback?
the initial pushback that I think was expected was we've changed so many rules so often already, and we just did CE broker. There's no appetite for change.
Fatigue.
Rule change fatigue, no appetite for change. And then I think it was probably the use of the word radical, but also just the sort of like, ooh, this isn't just tweaking a little, this would be a departure from what we've been doing. But I think they warmed up as the conversation went along. And so I don't think there was real objection to the concept, more I'm not sure I want to discuss this right now, but maybe come back to me later.
So basically, my recommendation to the board, based on my conversations with the other three boards, is that we plow forward, and that we just be the leaders, and we just go ahead and make this change. I don't know, that would be my recommendation, is that we move forward and make the rule changes that we want to make. I think there's possibly two ways to go about this, and I will defer to staff on this part. I mean, I always defer to staff, but like, I understand that there is not an appetite for change, but I also, so I'm okay with this idea of like a long runway. So I don't know if we'd want to maybe spend the summer pitching the radical plan to our constituents, to our licensees, and kind of getting some affirmative feedback on that, or if we just want to save that for public comment. But anyways, at the end of the day, my recommendation is that we move forward with the radical plan.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're recommending a rule change which goes to the rules committee for them to deliberate on?
I mean, technically, they've already deliberated on it.
Okay,
So I don't know if they would need further deliberation. I mean, I suppose they could deliberate on it further and then, but we would bring it, basically the earliest we'd bring it to this board would be, when do we meet again? October.
like, yeah, October 1st, September, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess I want to see a recommendation from the rules committee proposing that rule.
Yeah.
What is it?
Not today, I'm not saying today, I'm just saying in general.
no, I know.
It's a matter of process.
I don't have a
wanna
problem
see-
with that. You wanna kick it to us? Well, yeah, that's totally fine. I was gonna, I think with the 50-50 rule, wasn't there like an 18-month from when it was posted to when it went into effect? Do I remember that right?
I don't remember. But yes,
I thought there was like a period of time where like there was a big adjustment period, and it wasn't until like January 1 of like a year and a half from when it was put out. Yes, okay,
Yes.
I'm remembering that right.
We laid out.
I think that it's perfectly reasonable to imagine that since this is instead of a
Big
radical
change.
shift,
Yeah.
an ambitious shift.
There you go, the ambitious plan.
Ambitious plan.
Oh. Yeah.
That maybe we give it another, if we decide in October, maybe we don't have it go into effect till 2028 or something like that. And then people have a lot of time, like lead time to like figure that out, digest it, make a plan, et cetera.
Get the other boards on board.
Now, I guess I'm not speaking to the radical plan, I'm more speaking general rules.
Yeah.
I want all rules to come
Yes.
through the rules committee to the
Yes.
board versus all committees bringing rules to
It's
the.
the ambitious plan now.
One additional option, or additional step to consider is, I know part of the conversation was driven by the data that you got from the CE survey of MFTs, and I know some of the boards,
Want to do a similar survey or don't?
or they noted that the data was peculiar to MFTs.
Right, that's true.
And so part of the conversation could be us asking, do the other boards want to put out that same survey to get data from the rest of the licensees to compare apples to apples and see if that same support for getting rid of the 50% rule, et cetera, is there.
Okay, that might be an option too. Would the other boards have somebody on their board who could run that data for them?
Yes.
Okay.
You know a guy?
Yeah.
You know,
We can figure that out, yes.
He's a radical guy.
No, ambitious.
How did the LPC board, what did they ultimately decide to do with their supervisee survey? Am I allowed to ask that?
They sent out the supervisee survey and they got their results back and sent it to the
Okay.
committee.
And are they gonna make any changes? Are they gonna analyze them further or?
I don't believe so. I think they had the same feeling that it successfully showed the value of supervision, and that both A, supervision is a useful thing, and B, there's not a significant abuse of supervisee's problem. And so there wasn't a need to react to that.
Yeah.
That's as far as I remember.
Okay, cool.
So that leads us into the Rules Committee.
Hey. We met twice, and we covered a lot of ground. So one of the big things that the Rules Committee has been looking at is looking at changing the definition of technology-assisted services and including more technology-assisted services as well as the language and how we define technology-assisted services. And I'm very grateful that I did not have to write those rules, so thank you for not making me write those rules. The staff did a great job with that and taking our feedback as far as language and how to digest all of that. There was also a lot of discussion about the direct hours and tracking the in-person versus virtual and what that looks like. There were lots of questions. You want to cover some of that now to kind of have it on the record? Well, I mean, I think now is a perfectly appropriate time to cover it. So at this time, no more than 50% of direct hours can come from online or virtual practice, or however we're defining that today. I know that there's some new language coming out. Thank you for not giving me the evil eye and saying it wrong. But my feeling is that once someone is fully licensed, they need to be able to manage themselves in any situation that they are licensed to be in. And that means in person or virtual. You do not have to have a virtual practice. Certainly there is more of that today than there was 5 years ago, a whole lot more than there was 10 years ago. But once you're fully licensed, if you have not ever been in an environment in person and you don't know how the boundaries are different and how the expectations are different, then you are not prepared, and yet you are fully licensed and able to do that. So my feeling is that while a virtual practice is still an option, and in person, if you're fully licensed, you can do either, and so you should be able to be equipped for either. So I don't think that we should remove this rule. That was my opinion. One of the questions that came up was, how do we enforce this rule? And that's not my jam. So I will ask the staff.
So I actually asked a couple questions.
Oh yeah, I got the list. I was just starting with the first one.
I can't tell who mucked this up. I think I mucked this
You
up.
didn't.
So yeah, the question is, how do we enforce it? The other question I want to understand was, what are the other boards doing in relation to this rule or similar rule? And my understanding was we were not enforcing it per se, it was on an honor system more so than anything else. Which I think those are the basic two questions. I think I had a couple
I've got the whole
okay.
list. Is there an exception limited to military-related statutes? Do we know how often this actually comes up, or do we only know if it comes up if it ends up in front of us?
Yeah, you've got all the list of questions I said, so.
Absolutely. And I will say, happy to discuss now. No action being proposed today for those listening.
Good.
No.
We will have plenty of time to revisit and discuss. So yes, generally speaking, the other boards have other limitations, but do not have this particular flavor of ice cream in terms of the cap on the number of experience hours that can be provided virtually. There are no exceptions in the rule currently, and frankly, we as staff had the general principle that we had been operating under is that experience earned outside of Texas is governed by the rules of that jurisdiction. That if you are bringing experience, as long as it was correctly supervised and accomplished in whatever that state was, we would accept that experience as coming toward your cap. We had not considered, it had not been brought up, frankly, to your point, because we weren't asking, and it was somebody who came and asked us. Well, does this cap apply to out-of-state hours? The rule does not say it doesn't. It does not say that it does. And so that was where we will probably need some sort of rule change to make it clear. Whichever direction we go, we don't want to have the ambiguity of not knowing what's supposed to apply. Also, to your point, we do not currently document the cap for either out-of-state or in-state folks. It is a cap that they are not supposed to exceed, but we are not making them document the total hours of technology of virtual practice. And so that could be an area where we need to add that to our documentation so that we are enforcing it. Those are all part of the conversation that we will have going forward, and we'll provide options. So because one of the things that we have been struggling with and working on in the LPC world is a recognition that if you have the requirement, you should enforce it. If you enforce it, you are now enforcing it, and what that means for the consequences of denying people hours that they've experienced, and just being comfortable with where you do want that to happen versus don't.
And to be clear, I don't have a preference on the rule. What I don't like, I think you mentioned, is ambiguity and subjective exceptions. So as long as we're clear, I don't really have a preference for against the rule.
I totally agree. Well, we shouldn't have rules that we're not willing or able to enforce.
Could I chime in?
Yes.
Okay, so it's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that while the experienced verification form does not require you to report how many hours were virtual versus how many were in person, the supervisor does sign off on those hours, and therefore the supervisor, if they're a decent supervisor, is making sure that the hours accrued adhere to the rules that are in place. So I don't see it or experience it as an honor system where the associate is saying, sure, I met it, because there's a supervisor with eyes on it who's also making sure it meets the requirements. So we are, in my point of view, enforcing that through the supervisor. That would be my perspective on it.
Dr. Boulder, I think you're totally right. I think where this has come up more recently is when someone is seeking reciprocity from another state, is when other states don't have this kind of rule, then what is staff supposed to do when say somebody's coming in from Colorado? How is staff supposed to interpret that and apply this?
But we do have the rule that says that staff can waive any rule-based licensure requirement. So technically, staff,
I think you're thinking of 801.115.
yes.
And that is for the independent license
Right.
holder of another state,
I was gonna
not the associate.
I was gonna say, this is, the only time I think that we're gonna encounter this is if we have someone who's an associate coming from another state, but not necessarily if they're coming in fully licensed.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, if they're trying to bring the hours toward the total hours we require versus they've already been licensed.
So to the chairman's point, this is not something that comes up a lot.
It doesn't come up a lot, and I would highlight Dr. Elder, I think you're right in the probably language we use. We are, for everyone listening, we are enforcing the rule in the sense that we expect you to do it, and we expect supervisors to honor it, and if anyone asks, we are going to say, no, you may not do more than 750. But what we might want to consider, what the board can consider is, are we verifying compliance? Are we ensuring that the compliance is reported to us and in that way actively enforcing to make sure it is done? And generally speaking, you do, well, some rules are prescriptive and you simply enforce them when there are complaints. Some rules that are based, particularly licensing requirements, you verify compliance before giving a license. This may fall into that category, and so we may want to enhance the form a little, but there are multiple ways you can do that, and we'll bring those to you.
Thank you. Anything else? My apologies.
No, you're fine.
Item number 6, I think this is something I put on here as well. No, actually, number 5. Okay, so 5 is really speaking to how do we get support in the rulemaking functioning process. And so I know we've heavily relied on Dr. Merchant around surveys and her thought leadership, but in general, how do we, and who do we go to for support? And so one of the things, I'll give an example. One of the things in my mind that we probably should pay a little more attention to is AI and its impact on this board and on the profession. And we may not have the capability within this board. So who do we go to get those things? Who do we go to do surveys if we don't have the internal resources? Do we go to professional organizations? Do we go to universities and ask them to provide resources to do these type of things? Who do we lean on, obviously, other than staff, to provide that level of professional and thought leadership in these areas? It was really just a high-level discussion to kind of think through that from an approach perspective and a high-level perspective.
I mean, my thought would be that if the board wants like a research project done, like there's information or data they want collected that the board doesn't have the time or the energy or the skills to do, is that they would do like a request for proposal and put it out in the world and let universities or whoever else wants to like respond to that request for proposal and say, yes, I want to do this. I want to do this research.
No, I think that's a great option. Do we, I don't have the budget memorized, the line items, but is there a line item where we could pay a firm to do research? Does that exist?
No.
No.
To my knowledge, BHEC has, I don't know that partnered is the right word, collaborated is maybe a better word, collaborated on one research project with an outside organization. And in that case, I believe it was the university approached BHEC and said, we want to do this research project. Can we collaborate with you? Is that correct, Daryl?
Yes.
Yeah.
So is there any precedent of this happening on other boards where you go out to the universities and ask them to do a research project, or go out to a professional organization and ask them to do a survey or whatnot? Has that been done across any other board? And is there any reason we can't do that or shouldn't do that, I guess is the question.
Well, the university that Dr. Merchant is referencing, it's UT Rio Grande, and we have worked with them, collaborated with them to study basically our disciplinary process and our the disciplinary actions that we have taken to see if they can identify any kind of trends Maybe it is giving rise to the discipline, just anything that we're not seeing because we're too close to it is kind of what we used them for. It was a project they wanted to work on. I will tell you, when you get into dealing with any kind of data that is behind a firewall, or it becomes incredibly difficult to work with outside organizations. Our original plan for UT Rio Grande was much, much grander. And then when we finally realized kind of what the limitations on how access would work to the database, we had to really pare it down. So there's that kind of limitation that's just going to naturally occur. As far as outside organizations, I can give you an example. I had reached out to AHRQ, which is the federal research equivalent. It's the research arm of U.S. Health and Human Services. I had asked them to conduct basically a very advanced version of what you are kind of doing with your supervisor study, where I wanted to know what's the effectiveness in public protection of the various licensing schemes used throughout the country for all the professions. In other words, like some states have a postdoc requirement for psychologists, others do not. I wanted to try to initiate a research project on that. Long story short, that was too big of a project even for the federal government. They were like, we can't do that. And so it's been, I would say, I've failed more often than not in trying to get somebody to take on a project that we needed. And I'm not, I don't know. I don't have any good options for you there. I think probably if you ever just really had a project that you wanted to do and you could show, we know the data would be tangible, we know it would be very, very valuable in some sort of big ticket policy decision that you guys had to make. We could, in the next legislative session, go to the legislature and go, we would like funding to do this kind of a project, and see if we could get the legislature to fund it. And then we could go out and do an RFP and hire a firm to actually do the contracting for us. Other than that, you're trying to dangle something in front of somebody else and go, look what you'll get if you partner up with us. You got to make it, you got to tease some people into it.
So this is, the board came up with a project that would be helpful in policy. We're talking likely a 4-year project.
At least, yeah.
Because you're likely going through one one legislative session just to introduce the concept. And then it's gonna take that other work internally with legislators and to get there.
Ideally, you would want a project that would benefit everybody under BHEC and not just you, so that it's an easier sell. And then when you get there, then we're gonna have to start a year before that legislative session, building it up, fleshing it out. There's gonna be a lot of work that goes into that. Then Robert and I actually have to go over and make the pitch. You'd have to get the professional associations involved because they can carry a lot of the water for us over there. Then if it goes, it would be the following September after the legislative session before you actually got the money. At that time, you could then publish the RFP. So you're talking, 2-3 years easy.
Was there any money exchange between you and the UT Permian Basin?
No.
Okay, because that was them approaching us saying, we want to do this, can we have access to your database?
That's where we gave them a carrot.
Right.
They got access to some what would normally be confidential information by virtue that we brought them on as an agent of us to conduct a research project that we wanted to. They get to use some of the output. It has to be de-identified and everything, but so they got a little something out of it too. That was the reason we were able to work that deal out.
Sorry, go ahead, Dr.
Well, I just wanted to ask, and maybe this is a question for our attorneys. What is the decision about who owns the data if we contract with, like if we're paying a firm that's different than if we're partnering and someone kind of volunteers, who owns the data?
We always own the data, full stop.
We cannot contract away that statutorily.
I guess my example has no data because I'm looking at AI and the disruptor of AI is going to be not just today, but in the next 6 months and 12 months. And every time I use AI all the time, but every time I look at it 3 months later, it's significantly better and smarter than it was 3 months ago. And so whether we do something or do nothing, it's going to happen to us. So how do we get the intelligence and the data and the knowledge to appropriately respond to what AI is going to do to the profession. And it's not just an MFT thing, it's an LPC thing, it affects everybody. But how do we get that information? How do we approach that problem?
And that's where one area that is an option that unfortunately I don't believe y'all have is just as there are national associations of the professions themselves, there are national associations of the regulatory boards. And AMFTRB is here online today and going to talk later. I know for the social work, the Association of Social Work Boards, ASWB, they actually have a research arm and have funding that they will put out there for research projects. In addition, I believe both the National Counseling Board Association and the Psychology Association have internal divisions that do research for the boards. And so they don't do big research projects and they're not at the beck and call of the regulatory boards, but that is an avenue where we can go as a member and say, we would like this question of, for example, use of AI by practitioners and have a few questions. We would like you to go and ask the other 50 states and Canadian provinces and gather data for us. AMFTRB can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not believe they have any sort of staff or funding or division to do such a thing. And so I don't believe that avenue is available to you.
Fair enough.
Well, I'll just say that there is a lot of research already being done, and so it could be that it's not so much that we are the drivers of it, as much as we pay attention to what other people are already doing. Okay. If that makes sense.
We've got to integrate it into our approach, integrate it into our committees and decision making.
Yeah.
I would understand. Okay.
That's where my mind just went. So so which committee or two would start diving into this to a lot of research to start seeing who's doing what.
That's a good segue into the next item.
All right.
So item number 6 is, I've looked at how we've got committees configured. And this, for my taste, I think we have too many committees for the size of board that we are. So we've got 9-member board and we've got 5 committees. Best practice kind of says 9-member board will have 3 committees. So I've looked at kind of restructuring how we set up our committees. So not necessarily that they'll go away, but I think there's 3 prominent committees that I would call standing permanent committees. And then I think the other ones, I would like to make them more, either combine them or make them more of an ad hoc committee. So we assemble them when they're needed. So clearly, the licensing standing committee is a standing committee that has to stay. The rules committee obviously is one that can't change. So those 2 are unchanged in my mind. We talked earlier about the ISC panel, so I'd like to kind of remove the ISC from the ethics panel per se, just because we will utilize the full 9-member board when it comes to sitting on the ISC. So we won't use just ethics committee members to sit on the ISC panels.
Meaning we'll all take turns?
Correct.
Okay.
Our meeting will all be at the beck and call of staff to sit on the ISC panels whenever they happen. And so that shrinks the ethics committee. It doesn't necessarily mean we eliminate it per se. The other 2 committees, I think we combine and make what I would call an ad hoc committee. You call on them to be assembled when you need them. So that's the outreach committee and the professional development committee. So it gets us down to 3 standing committees, and then we'll have ad hoc committees assembled as we need them, but they won't be an ongoing concern. So that's just high level thinking. So I want to get thoughts, feedback, comments. criticisms,
Well,
lost my mind.
Who decides when it is time to be an ad hoc?
This board.
Okay,
Yeah.
all of it.
I
Okay.
see my work, Dr. Bartier.
Well, I'm just going, because that's what I was saying, how would that do? But, and as you said that, I said, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense that we would, if out of a meeting here, we said, hey, this project needs to be looked at, and then you'd probably take volunteers, and we would try to limit the number, like we need 3 to be on this committee or something like that.
Yeah, you gotta limit it, you don't wanna walk in quorum, so you can't have more than 4 people, but yeah, you limit it to whoever's interested and whoever has an expertise. Depends on what the topic is, but we still have 3 standing committees that we report on every meeting. And those are the ones that most of the work happens in anyway.
Repeat them, I got licensing rules and what's the
The
third?
third one probably ethics.
Ethics, and my understanding is that we would all sort of take instead of it being, this is who's on the ethics committee, we would all take turns.
You take turns on the ISC panel, but not necessarily on the ethics committee.
Okay,
So you have an ethics committee, but separate from that would be an ISC panel, which staff can pull from any of us to be on those particular panels.
And just to let the board know sort of what that looks like, all the other 3 boards have shifted to this model, and it's going well as far as we, as staff, are concerned. What we do is we identify the ISCs that need to happen, and we go ahead and get those scheduled and lined up and ready. And then you'll get an email from one of our attorneys saying, hey, MFT board, we have scheduled ISCs on this date at this time and this date at this time. Please tell us who is available to staff those, who is available to be on them. And it's essentially first come, first serve. Now, I will say the 2 things our attorneys are very aware of. One is if it is a professional standard question, then it needs to be a professional board member. We're not going to have public members or staff ruling on professional questions. And then the other is if one of you happens to be particularly good at responding to your email fast, we're not going to have you be the person every time. We are going to try to spread it around. But in this way, it's causing us too much of a slowdown to try to marry all of your schedules individually, picking you first, and then fitting your schedule, and then getting the ISC scheduled. We needed to do it the other way around.
So I guess just to be clear though, so this is not gonna say a request, but this is a function of the difficulty that we're having today. It's trying to solve a problem.
Yes,
Though I will say it's a problem for the other boards, it's not necessarily been a problem for the MFT board.
true. Your numbers are small enough that it has not created a timing problem.
Okay.
We're that good.
But it will be convenient as a consistency thing to have the process be the same. And hopefully to get some of you experience on ISCs. I think you'll find them interesting.
I will suggest that cases involving sexual misconduct still involve 2 board members as opposed to just 1.
And we do not have to only use 1. There's not a cap. So yes, we can have 2 board members on an ISC. That's perfectly fine.
I used to serve on a board where, as far as the ISC panels, they would have the professional and then a public member, and then they would rotate.
And so
They work well.
we can certainly lean toward prioritize having 1 professional and 1 public member on ISCs. We can inform our attorneys that. The real importance for us as staff is that we don't delay things for scheduling reasons that can't happen. We need to keep, we have too many complaints, we have to keep pushing forward.
And this has helped with that, with the other boards.
Yes.
This process has helped that scheduling and helped that bottleneck.
Yes. And thus far, I have not heard any complaints from participants about the membership of the ISCs, and we have not noticed any change in professionalism or caliber. You are all very professional members, and so are the other boards.
going back to the other question about consolidating the committees, I will say the ones that do the least amount of work are actually probably the Licensing Standards Committee and the Professional Development Committee. And the Licensing Standards Committee is their workload is actually about to get even less, because really the only thing the primary thing that we do on the Licensing Standards Committee is approve the study plans, and the study plans are going away. So, I don't know, at least that's kind of my sense, but maybe not.
Maybe a lot of that role could be folded into the rules committee.
I would think so.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And then having outreach and professional development, because those to me feel very akin.
Yeah,
Maybe be their own standalone.
The Professional Development Committee usually does CE rules. So like licensing standards obviously does licensing standards rules. The Rules Committee generally handles like the standards of practice type rules. And then the Professional Development Committee has historically handled like CE rules and the jurisprudence exam.
So let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's put this to the test.
Yeah.
Let's create an ad hoc committee.
On committees?
To come back to figure out which 3 committees there are and what fits in those committees. And then we'll bring that back here for a proposal and adoption at the next meeting.
I volunteer as trivia.
But until then, we'll still move forward with global participation in the ISCs. Is that fair? So on that ad hoc committee, which is only gonna have one meeting for one purpose, will be, you volunteer, okay, any other volunteers, just let me know, we can't have more than,
I can
we
volunteer.
can't have more than, I'll be on it, so we can't have more than 3 others, I guess, so you one, that's 2,
You can volunteer.
okay, 3. If anyone else is passionate about it, just let me know. Okay, item number 7, so I'm gonna let staff lead us through the next few.
Board members, we have coming before you Dr. Gary Bell. He's coming from, he holds, sorry, getting my notes in front of me. He has held a California license, independent LMFT license since 2004. But on October 6th of 2020, a revocation was stayed and a 7-year probation was imposed. He also holds a Washington LMFT license. When he first applied, it was a conditional status, but that conditional status has since been released. Also, since his application, he has been awarded an Iowa LMFT license, also on a conditional status. We have Attorney Bridges with us today. He did the legal review for this particular applicant. And also licensing staff noted that because of the, with the help of the attorneys, that because of the probation and the conditional status of his non-Texas licenses, we could not apply any of the exemptions in 801.115 that currently apply for someone with a LMFT in another jurisdiction. So we're looking at 882.14, petition for waiver or remediation of a deficiency. His review for academic requirements, he has less than 12 months of a practicum and less than 9 semester hours of that same practicum. So it's up to the board to determine how this appeal would be resolved. So with that, Gary Bell is here in the audience, so we generally afford the appellant a few moments to speak to the board. So I will do that now. Mr. Bell, Dr. Bell, can you unmute?
I am unmuted.
Thank you, sir. So the board has been provided all of the documentation related to your application, so there's no need to repeat all of the things that you've provided, but if there's anything you'd like to address the board with or bring to their attention, please do so.
Yeah, I thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate it. I was not able to attend the first hearing because I was on an airplane, and I do apologize for that. I just wanted to, I don't know if I provided all of the information in the first hearing to let you to see all of the conditions of and all of what took place, at least from my perspective. Um, but I'm hoping that you all have looked through some of the material that I've written as far as what really took place. Um, I have worked enormously hard over the last 7 years, and this all took place in 2017. When this client that I had, where this all originated was I was doing marital counseling, and she had been apparently listening to my podcast and was very excited about seeing me as a therapist with her husband. They were about to get divorced, and it was a last-ditch effort. And she apparently had fixated on me, and she asked for an individual session regarding the marriage. And when that happened, at the very end of the session, she came on to me. I stopped her after I froze. I stopped her and then let her know that this is something I would have to speak to her husband about and let him know what happened. And when that happened, it developed a threat level for her because it would trigger the divorce itself. And the next day, we left on a trip, a cruise, and basically I said, look, when I come back, this is something that we can work out. But during the entire cruise, I got a ton of emails from her, and she escalated and escalated and escalated for fear that I would communicate her to her husband. And so when I came back, instead of meeting her at the office, I met her at a Starbucks and just explained my side of it and heard her side of it. And after that, she decided to stalk me because I was releasing them both as clients. When that happened, um, she began to stalk. She also, after she came to my house and was at the door when my wife and I and my son drove up, uh, I asked her to leave the property. Um, and when she left the property, she made an accusation that I had sexually came onto her or whatever, and then I had to protect. First of all, she began to cyberstalk myself. She cyberstalked my wife. She cyberstalked my son. She cyberstalked my daughter. And then she began showing up, and then she showed up at my attorney's. So we go through the case. The case got dropped regarding sexual assault or whatever she accused me of. But that case cost an enormous amount of money. And then when she lost the case, she decided to break the restraining order because I got a restraining order, a civil restraining order. And then she began threatening to kill me. And when she began threatening to kill me and my family, this escalated, and then she threatened the district attorney, and then she threatened my attorney. She ended up,
So,
um,
Dr. Bell, I'm sorry, I understand you're wanting to provide us context, but I just need to insert here and for the board, this is not a disciplinary matter for us. We are not litigating the discipline that you have undergone. And all of the things you're talking about happened outside of Texas jurisdiction. So all that we can do is look at what California and Washington and Iowa, the actions they took on your licenses there. And so I
Fair
certainly
enough.
appreciate you're wanting to give context, but if you could just steer toward
Yep.
what did California do to your license?
Yes. California asked for weekly supervision and weekly therapy, which I have done since 2020. Um, since then, I've also done over 100 hours, more than 100, about 140 hours of ethics and law. I've also had to retake the exam in California, both exams in California, and then when we moved to Washington to get away from the stalking, I had to take the national exam, so I took the national exam also, and passed that. I've been practicing in Washington for the past 7 years, 8 years now, almost, and I've never had any incident before this happened, 16 years before this happened, and I haven't had anything since then. But I've learned an enormous amount, and I'm I work. I'm put my clients first. I've got enormous amount of crisis and all kinds of marital background. I do an enormous amount of work. Um, I have a thriving practice, but I know how this all looks. My also in Iowa, they just asked that I have a monitor of my practice for 1 year from January to January. That was just recent because I had a clinic. Asked me if I would supervise them, and so I had to get a Iowa license to do supervision because a friend of mine moved to Iowa from Washington, and I said, yeah, I would do that if I could.
So
So when I
Dr.
applied,
Bell, I'm
yeah,
sorry, I hate to interrupt. When will your Washington license be unrestricted?
it's unrestricted now,
It is. And then your Iowa license will be unrestricted in next January.
January.
And
hmm
so is what you're asking the board to do is to waive the practicum requirements and issue you a license? Is that what you're asking for?
I am asking, thank you. That's exactly what I'm asking, and I'm also up for appeal in California in August.
Okay, and that's when your license will become unrestricted in California is in August.
Hopefully, yeah, it looks like it will be, but I don't know for certain until it happens.
Okay.
It became effective in October of 2020, so 7 years would be October of 2027.
Okay.
That's when it finishes if all
Unless they
goes.
do the early release in
Unless they do the
August. Is that
early
correct,
release.
Dr. Bell?
That's exactly correct. And
So
all terms, everything has been absolutely met above and beyond what they've asked for.
And so it sounds like you're asking again for a waiver of the practicum requirements for us to issue you a license. And it sounds like you're open to us issuing you a restricted license in some form or fashion if needed.
If that's what it is needed, I absolutely, yes. We're moving to Texas because my mother-in-law is needs to be taken care of. And my son is going into middle school, so this is the time if we were to move, this is where we need to. So it's inconvenient. I wish all this was passed, but it's not. And that's why I'm asking for this opportunity.
Thank you.
And so generally speaking, board, this is where the board's rule 115 allows for folks who have been licensed for more than 2 years to show the minimum statutory requirements, but it has to be in good standing. And so that is why, because of the probation on his California license and the conditional restriction in his Iowa license, by the text of the rule, he does not qualify for the minimum showing of requirements. Instead, he'd have to show the full set, which is why we flagged that there was not a practicum. I will, just for your information, given the age of the offense and that it is over almost 10 years old, not quite. If there had been no restrictions or anything, I am not certain that we would have, from a disciplinary standpoint, flagged this as needing your review, preventing him getting a license from a disciplinary standpoint. That being said, I couldn't tell you for sure. I don't know if we would have flagged this already anyway. So it is within the board's discretion, based on the events and the documents you have, whether to waive that requirement or not.
So the primary reason you're bringing it to us is because of the practicum deficiency.
Yes, that is what we've brought forward.
And his restrictions are lifted in August as he hopes, then all of this goes away as well.
The California could be in August, and then the Iowa would be in January.
February 6, 2027.
So again, theoretically, if there were no conditions on his out-of-state licenses, we still would have gotten what we call an NPDB hit from the National Practitioner Data Bank, showing that he had an adverse condition on his license. generally speaking, if we were a year from now and all probation had been accomplished and he had an active California license with no restrictions, our general policy is if you have completed the punishment for which the other state gave you and are successfully licensed, we consider you to have met your obligation to society and we're not going to further restrict you. Now, that being said, if the offense is egregious enough, we may still want to bring that to your attention. So again, I cannot say unequivocally if no restrictions were there, would we have just automatically given him a license, but probably.
If I could add just real quickly, many times when we have an applicant who is under current conditions or restrictions, not every time, but many times we'll often sometimes just do a reciprocal order, like an eligibility order that will say, you're licensed to practice, but with a certain restriction in another state, and so whether it's you can't do this sort of area of practice, or you need to do drug or alcohol treatment for the following 5 years, you can be licensed here, but you also need to complete that 5 years of drug or alcohol treatment. The same terms and conditions, so that the full terms and conditions of that initial order are carried forward, or they follow through with it, I guess. So.
And is there also the missing documentation on the supervised, the 3,000 hour supervised experience? Is there an implication with that? Were those like burned up in a fire, or the university only keeps them so long or something?
He had a house fire, and one of his universities is no longer in existence. So there was an issue getting some documents.
Verification of.
Because he had a house fire, and so some of his records were lost. It's
Right.
a lot. And Argosy, I think, was one of the universities he attended, and they're no longer in existence. Am I remembering that right?
That's correct, comports with my recollection.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's true. That is another area. So it's two areas in which, under the waiver rule, this would not be a problem because we just look for total hours documentation. California doesn't provide the details that we would need if we were looking for original documentation.
Okay. Just so I understand, he's done this in Washington and got a
Provisional license.
provisional, and also done this in Iowa, and they've granted him provisional.
Yes.
Correct.
So what are our options?
You may deny the request for waiver and find that he does not have the sufficient practicum and experience for a license, in which case he would have to go back and get more practicum hours and then also get licensed as an associate and get those hours. You may grant the waiver entirely and just say give a full license. It's sufficient background and experience and education is sufficient to protect the public. Give a full licensure. Or as Patrick says, you may grant a license with an eligibility order, a conditional order that imposes whatever restrictions you deem appropriate. As Patrick mentioned, we would, as staff, normally recommend at least matching whatever the other states are, which in this case would be a practice monitor through at least February 2027 to match Iowa's, and probation through the time of California's probation. I'm not entirely sure how we would match that.
There's a lot of terms in there, so
Yeah. Maybe
we could just have it matched to whatever the requirements of the other orders are, and if released early, we could potentially release him.
Could we just do like probated suspension for 1 year with practice monitoring?
You can't. Can you agree to a probated suspension?
Or maybe not.
Eligibility order?
But at least practice monitoring for.
Practice monitoring through the terms of the Iowa would make sense, and through whatever time period you found acceptable. If he violates the terms of probation in California, presumably they will take action against his license which we would then take reciprocal discipline on. So we don't necessarily have to monitor that.
So California goes through October 27. Right?
Unless
That's 10
he's
years.
granted early satisfaction.
Okay. And Iowa is
February.
February 27.
If
Is there anything in Washington? Sorry.
That's
He's
been released.
been released from those conditions, yeah.
if we did practice monitoring, could he use the same practice monitor he's using for Iowa, or would he need to find a Texas practice monitor?
Texas.
If he's practicing in Texas, it's a Texas one.
One thing I would suggest on this, if y'all are considering an eligibility order, is any further action by California or Iowa, those are the only two states with outstanding orders, right?
Mhm.
Any further action by either one of those states
Would automatically
Whether it is-
trigger.
is automatically grounds for revocation of your Texas license. And he's got to agree to that,
Okay.
because I don't want to be chasing this guy if something goes sideways. I don't want to have to chase him through SOA and all that stuff. And, you know, if that's my only kind of cautionary.
So in other words, if we were to just grant him a full license, unrestricted, like no eligibility order, there would still be a way for us to.
You would put that in the eligibility order.
Yeah, it's got to go.
Okay, that would go in the eligibility. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Discussion?
Does Mr. Bridges have any?
Yeah, John, you,
I have, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have nothing to add. Everything has been said eloquently.
Ooh,
You give us too much credit.
would you put that in the minutes?
so I will, again, just noting for the board, Mr. Bell Mr. Bell described his experience and for lack of a better phrase, version of events. California disagreed, right? California found that was not true and did discipline him. So, but again, this is not a disciplinary matter for us. This is just a licensing question.
I think I would
Then what
be.
is appropriate?
I think I'd be in favor of waiving the practical requirements and doing some sort of license with agreed order. I don't know how anybody else feels.
I'm not comfortable with just giving him a license. I'm with you. I think if there's some sort of provisional asterisk next to it, the way Iowa and Washington did, because to your point, Robert, if say in August, right, he had completed everything that California asked him to do, he would have taken his licks, he would have satisfied their requirements, and then he applied to us. This wouldn't have come to us.
Different conversation.
So I'm open to something provisional.
Okay, others?
Great.
Does a provisional, stating the question just to put it on the table, does a provisional allow him to earn an income
Yes.
providing therapy?
Yes, and just to be clear, it would not be listed as provisional. It would be a full LMFT license. It would be subject to what we call an eligibility order that would be public, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be
Yeah, it would be
public.
public. It would be on his license file.
But he'd still be able
But-
to bill insurance.
But yes, he'd
If it
still
was
be able
provisional
to work,
license, you can't.
bill insurance, be a part of practice.
Sort
Yes,
of like he's on probation.
He just couldn't supervise.
true.
That's his only reason.
Would,
Just to be clear, Mr. Bell, is that an option that you would consider?
The insurance companies aren't going to take a provisional. They generally don't do that. But I it would be cash pay, and yes, I would have to operate under that pretense. So yeah, I do understand that part of it.
Well, I'm asking, what we're discussing as a potential option, is that an option for you, or is that is that a waste of your time? Is my question.
No, it's certainly not a waste of my time. I appreciate any consideration in this at all. But yes, I can do whatever you guys need me to do. I'll do it.
Mr. Bell, Daryl Spinks, I'm the executive director. What are your plans? You said you're coming down here to help your mother-in-law?
Yes.
Okay. Well, never mind.
What, Daryl, do you have thoughts?
Well, I guess if the situation changes and she no longer needs any assistance, are you planning on staying in Texas, or are you planning on returning to Iowa or to Washington?
As a lot of people in this country, our family's migrated to Texas. So yes, we plan on staying. I live in Seattle. It's a lot different than Texas, and we'd probably rather have our son going to school in Texas at this point.
So just to clarify my understanding it, what would be as part of our decision, the quickest to get off any conditions, and what would be the longest amount of time to get off conditions that we're evaluating, considering?
Well, the quickest would be just to give them a license without.
Right, but I don't hear that on the table.
Yeah, it would be, if we,
We would recommend that you pick a time and probably not try to condition it on a certain event or date, or just
would you just say like a
pick
year?
a year or whatever other time period you prefer.
Okay, so there's two things on the table. One, granting him a restricted license with an EO. So is there agreement on that point, first and foremost? If there is, then we go to the agreement on the length of time for that EO. So is there agreement on a restricted license?
I would vote for that.
I would vote for that.
Yes. Okay, so we've got that settled. Then the next piece is, what's the length of time?
we'll make a motion, we can make a motion at the end.
Right, we'll put it in one motion.
Yeah.
But we need to settle one thing at a time and then put it in one motion.
Then I would suggest or make a motion for 24 months, because that's further out than January, it's further out than, I think if August may or may not happen, and if that doesn't happen, then that puts him in 2028, I think, or something like that.
27, October 27.
October 27 is, it's
Yeah.
over and done with.
So 24 gets you,
So,
gets you
this
across, 24 gets you across.
yeah,
24 months gets that done.
This October, he's going, or this August, he's going out for like a probationary
Early
hearing,
release.
early release, yeah.
Potential early.
Anything else, anyone else with a different time frame? Okay, you can put that in motion.
Is there any other comments that we need to have from staff on this?
Just to
Considerations?
be, if I might phrase what I think I'm hearing is the motion, which it would be to grant the request for remediation and waiver to recognize his existing amount of practicum and supervised experience, grant a full LMFT license, but upon agreement of an eligibility order where Dr. Bell would be under a practice monitor for a period of 24 months.
And would that be once a month or once a week?
The current one I have is quarterly.
And so that if you are not required to say what that practice monitor, you don't have to say it all. And it's simply he has a practice monitor and they
work out
meet
together.
as needed.
Okay.
But you may include a cadence of meeting with the practice monitor should you choose.
I think we typically do like a quarterly, but we also say the practice monitor can require additional if they think it's necessary.
Okay.
I think if I remember correctly, the language we put in a lot of the practice monitor language.
Okay. And just to be clear, under that, what you just said,
Motion.
yeah, if something goes sideways in Iowa or California, then
Yeah.
And we
So-
would add that.
Okay, so y'all talking about an eligibility order. It will not be it's not going to operate as a disciplinary order. He will not have disciplinary history. I want to make sure y'all understand.
Right.
And you're not wanting that, or are you wanting it to, because we can write it, we've done it in the past where they have an eligibility order. You got to do these things before we will give you, and then once we give you the license, this will transform into a probated suspension. We can do that. It's a little more teeth, it's a little more, think of the optics here. The allegations that were in that California order, Think of the optics on this. If something were to go sideways.
What does the disciplinary order give us then? Sorry.
So how long would you recommend a probated suspension?
Functionally, it won't be any different. You could set the exact same terms. It's just, it would be, the eligibility order would kind of transform once we issued the license into a probated suspension. I know we've done this before because I've seen.
Once the license is issued, then it's put on restricted status.
Yes.
It's a probated suspension.
Yes.
So, because you don't have a license to probate until you give them the license.
Right.
So you have to say, once it's issued, then it's reprimanded, kind of a thing.
Because right now, I want you to think about how this has progressed. He's gone from California to Washington to Iowa. Each one of those have been disciplinary, and now he gets Texas, and all of a sudden it transforms. It's no longer disciplinary. We have now changed it to almost just an administrative and eligibility order. Do you want to be the state that does that?
I think the difference here is, or at least for me, right, like, I'm not an attorney, so,
You're not missing much.
news to everybody else, right? I'm not an attorney, so I think what you're pointing out is exactly what I think some of us, including myself, thought we were driving at,
That, yeah,
was something with teeth.
that there would be,
Yeah,
there would be
I
a
thought too.
consequence of.
yes.
The teeth is really the same. It's just the beast that the teeth are in looks a little different.
Okay.
So would you?
But this mirrors Iowa
Iowa
and
and
California.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
that's what
Then what you said.
Who's gonna make that motion?
I'm gonna need one of y'all to do your best to make the motion.
So
We'll advise.
I make a
Somebody
motion
needs-
that we do what he said.
So would you say, well, I guess like, are we gonna do then like 2 years eligibility order, 2 years probated suspension, or like 1 year of each? 1 year of each or 2 years of each?
I was thinking 2 years of what Daryl was talking about.
The idea would be you enter in the eligibility on, June 2nd, whenever staff can get it to Dr.
Right.
Bell. He gets a license on June 5th. I'm just making these dates up. And it transforms on that day to a probated suspension.
So we don't do eligibility,
So it's
no
it's
long
just-
eligibility.
It's a single document.
Issue first and
Okay.
then, yeah.
Okay, never
It's,
mind.
but it's a single document, the attorneys draft it.
Right.
We send it to Dr. Bell for his signature.
Mhm.
It comes back for our attorneys to review it, they sign it. Daryl signs it, when Daryl signs it, it becomes effective.
Okay.
And then we send it to licensing staff, that's their instructions to, okay, now everything's all right, I can issue this license. And once the license is issued, they will issue it, if that's your motion, on a probated suspension status. Am I understanding that correctly?
Okay, so 2 years of probated
For
suspension.
24 months.
Okay,
And
with practice
what
monitoring.
it reads like in our system will be similar to what it reads like in
Similar.
California.
Yes.
You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around.
Who's making the motion?
Me,
Okay, let's go.
I say we do what Sarah said.
We really need more than, you gotta actually say what it is.
So basically you're saying what Robert said plus the addendum from,
From Daryl.
yep,
Well,
Plus-
you're asking for a waiver. You're asking to waive the practicum requirements.
I'm asking to waive the practicum requirements so that we can give him
Give him a license.
a license on a
probated.
on our probated status for 24 months.
I think so.
With practice monitor.
With practice
With the
monitor.
practice monitor.
motion on the
That the
floor.
practice monitor can kick up or kick down as needed.
Question for clarification. Is there a frequency that you want the practice monitor to meet with Dr. Bell? And is there a frequency that you want reports from the practice monitor to the council?
Quarterly, unless the practice monitor deems it's necessary to increase the frequency.
So quarterly meetings
Quarterly meetings.
and quarterly reports?
Yes.
So there's a
Thank you
motion,
for the clarification.
so there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a proper second. Ready for vote?
And that will automatically revoke if there's negative
Yes.
action on his other licenses.
Motion and a proper second. All in agreement, raise your hand, please.
Aye.
All opposed?
Sorry.
Unanimous, pass.
Thank you. Dr. Bell, thank you for being here today. We appreciate your time and all the documentation that you provided. I will be sending you documentation in writing as to what transpired today and the next steps.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Oh, sorry, Sarah.
Any quick questions?
No, God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bell.
Welcome to
All right.
Texas.
Thank you.
We've been going for an hour and 15 minutes. Does anyone need a nature break? Do we need a 5-minute break?
That's good. Yes.
I'd like a snack.
So we will adjourn for
She's recess.
recess. Thank you. I'm trying.
That's a probated recess.
For 7 minutes.
Stand in recess.
We will now resume the May 29th MFT meeting with agenda item number 8.
Board members, you have in your packet a report on the changes to the jurisprudence exam. I'll be happy to entertain any questions if you have them. And going forward, because of the change in the Secretary of State's assigning of web pages for new rules, rather than asking permission to make changes to the jurisprudence exam, I will be making changes and asking forgiveness later.
That's good.
Any questions?
No, but I do appreciate the questions and the responses that were there. I thought that was very, very rich.
Thank
to that, so kudos.
Do you wish to take the matter of agenda item 11 at this time? Or do you want to proceed?
Let's see, yes. So we'll move agenda item number 11 ahead of agenda item number 9, and then we can proceed from there.
Are we on?
Yeah, are we recording?
McGregor? Is there,
Yeah, I can see us. Can you fix
so
the screen?
can you
up there?
fix these screens?
They're beautiful.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. So the board received a number of public comments regarding an unfortunate mispublication of the Association of Marital and Family Therapy Regulatory Board's handbook and its exam content. We do have with us Dr. Paff-Bergen and I've forgotten the name of the other gentleman. Stephen Palusa. If you'd like to entertain any comments from them or if you have any questions.
Shall I bring them on?
Dr. Paff-Bergen, if you would like to unmute.
Yes, thank you. Hello.
Hello, and Mr. Palusa, you're also with AMFTRB?
Yes, he's our counsel.
Is there anyone else attending that I should bring on as well?
Yes, Vicki Gremmelsbacher, who's the president of PTC.
Ms. Gremmelsbacher, can you unmute?
Hello.
Thank you for raising your hand, that helped.
Good afternoon.
Thank you all for attending. Is there anything that you'd like to address the board with or entertain their questions, or how would you like to proceed?
Well, first, thank you very much for allowing us to attend virtually. That's very much appreciated. And yes, we'd be interested. You've met the 3 people who are here. Yes, we're happy to answer any questions. I do have one comment, if there's time, back on your agenda item 5, if and when you're ready for that.
The board research functions. I had some questions. It seems like earlier in the year there was a bit of a kerfluffle, and I'm grateful that you guys have been able to find the problem and fix it. But I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about what happened and what you guys are doing to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Yes. in January, when we were meeting with the California board, discussing California's use of the national exam, the three of us, as well as the California board staff, we're looking through the candidate handbook and realized that the chart that indicates what the domains are by percentage and number of items on the exam was still the one from the 2025 handbook. And so as soon as we realized that in January, PTC promptly by February 4th redid the handbook and put up the correct chart.
But of course, not everybody checks every day, right? They usually download from you guys and then proceed to studying.
Yes, and also.
I'd be happy to speak, Lois, if you'd
Yes,
like me to.
thank you, Vicki. I was just going to say, we also sent it out, but Vicki, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so as Lois said, there was that mistake, but I do want to let you know that the exams in 2026 are based on the most recent job task analysis, which was between 2024 and 2025. That's standard practice to make sure that the exam content is current and it's testing, current practice. That survey was distributed to practicing professionals back in 2024-25. And then the exam content, that test blueprint that Lois was mentioning, that includes the domains that are covered on the exam, as well as the number of questions in each area. That whole process is done approximately every 5 years, but it depends on how often there's changes in the industry. So that job analysis, it did validate the 6 domains of practice that have been in place, and then the content outline that resulted from that was used to develop the 2026 exams. So that's just a little background. And then as Lois said, we did identify the error. We took immediate steps to correct the handbook and post the new one. We also then sent emails out to all the candidates that are registered for the 2026 exams with a link to the current handbook so that they knew about it. We also looked at different remedies for the issue. The three of us, PTC, AMFGRB, and legal counsel, we looked at all the situations and the implications of that. Of course, the most important purpose is to protect the public. So, we really felt strongly that candidates who pass the exam, I should say it's essential that all candidates who pass the exam demonstrate competence against the same current standards. So while our exams in 2026 were developed and aligned with the content outline, we thought that the fairest and most valid way to handle it would be to offer either a no-cost retest of the examination or a full refund of the exam. We looked at other alternatives to that, such as rescoring the exams by excluding certain items. However, we rejected that approach because it introduces validity, fairness, and defensibility concerns. Specifically, rescoring by removing some exam items would really alter the whole construct of the whole exam and undermine score meaning. It really compromises score comparability. It requires a lot of recalibration without adequate re-equating of the exam. So we felt the fairest way, as I said, was to offer that free retest or a refund. So we sent out an email blast to all the 2026 candidates just to make sure and give them the link to the new handbook with the new outline, and to tell them to look at that as they're studying for the examination. We did offer that free refund, the free retest or exam refund for all the candidates who had already taken the test and failed. And we also sent them another email with the link to the updated handbook, because if they wanted to take the test again, we wanted to make sure that they were being tested on the new, using the new outline. And then AMF2B has been responding all along to different state board inquiries to make sure that everything's been going okay. Some states have some specific nuances with the examination and number of retakes for candidates, so we're working out those issues on a state-by-state basis.
So did this
so we're confident. Oops, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm so sorry, I thought you were done talking. Please continue.
Oh, I was going to say, we were confident that this remediation approach preserves the validity and reliability of the exam scores and making sure that all candidates are being treated equitably and aligning all professional testing standards, with fairness, consistency, and transparency. I know you had asked also for preventive measures, so I would like to reassure you that PTC has implemented different quality control processes to make sure this doesn't happen again. We have instituted a formal handbook quality control checklist and a required verification step to confirm alignment between the exam content outline and the published candidate handbook. So I would like to recognize that this administrative and communication error caused concern for everybody, candidates, stakeholders, all the states and all of that. And we really sincerely, PTC, I know AMF2B as well, sincerely regrets the impact. So I'm sure you have some questions, so.
Thank you. So did I understand it correctly that this may have happened to multiple states? Did I hear that?
Well, it happened to all candidates, no matter what state they were testing for or through.
Okay.
Yeah.
The national exam is given in all states, but California still uses their own state exam. And yet some Californians apply through other states to take the national exam. So yes, all jurisdictions.
So who creates the handbook? Is that something that AMF-TRB staff creates, or does PTCY create the handbook?
PTC created the handbook. So this was entirely a PTC issue that we posted the handbook for 2026 without adding the new outline that was developed in 2025.
So was the problem that PTC used the wrong table? Because it also seemed like there were some website issues where there were different things posted on the website. Like the website had conflicting information itself. So is PTC responsible for the website, or is AMF-TRB responsible for the website?
Which PTC is responsible for PTC's website,
and AMF-TRB is responsible for our website. But the link to the handbook from AMF-TRB's website goes to PTC website. So there's not an independent handbook on AMF-TRB's website. The link there goes to PTC. The dilemma in the FAQ section of our website is keeping it up to date. And in January, we'd started a major redo of our website. I've heard you guys discussing yours today, and we included a chat box as well as tried to narrow down and make it a more accessible around candidates being able to contact states. So at the exact same time that this occurred, FAQs section for the exam, because the link to the handbook is there, it took longer to get all of that corrected as opposed to some of the other corrections and updates actually that were going into the development of the website.
I don't think I have any other questions.
I do. It's just more of a curiosity one. Did you compare to, I guess, other testing cycles or whenever people test, was there a big spike in people who didn't pass because of this, or did that number just, you didn't see a difference? It's the same amount of people didn't pass as usual. Interestingly, in January, we saw a spike in people doing better than they had in a long time. The board, which was a surprise and a good surprise, but the rest of the months have looked about the exact same. kind of follow-up question. I was just wondering, since you have the domains as well, did you maybe see a spike in a particular domain where testers did more poorly than usual? Or that that was a wash too?
Vicky, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was a wash subjectively because one traditionally difficult domain has fewer items in it now as a result of the job delineation study. That may have done a bit better, but that was just a subjective look at the data as the months have gone by.
And just for the sake of my board members here, I kind of asked those questions thinking, because, right, we're gonna have to get into the, what are we gonna do with some of these complaints, correct? Or what is gonna be our opinion on some of these seven different kind of potential responses that we're gonna do, right?
What they've asked us to do.
What they've asked us to do.
And I think one of the things that maybe not everybody understands is that this board does not write, does not monitor, does not do any of the testing stuff. So I'm thankful that you guys joined us today to help kind of talk about what you guys do versus what we do. And speak to what you guys have done to remedy the situation, how you've tried to address fairness, because it's not like we have no control over the test.
Will Price here. A couple of questions I have. Just public member, never taken the test. So when we talk about the blueprint being off, how many questions are we saying like people may have thought were going to be in one section and not in the other section? Or how should I think about the person that was one question shy of passing versus the person that was 10 questions shy of passing?
The exam is scored, all of the items on the exam are scored. There are 180 items, and they're not scored by domain. So a person could get all of the domains and more items from a domain correct, and not get all of the items that were in one domain correct. I don't know how to say this without a chart, but I think I sent that to you, Sarah. The numbers were there in the 25 and 26. So it's an overall number out of 180. And if someone was surprised because there were, for example, in domain one, thank you. Domain one, there were fewer items that would have only added to the overall score, or if they'd gotten more right or wrong in any domain, they would have all added to the overall score. It's not scored by domain, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I follow you. So I'm sorry, and I looked at this chart and it didn't register to me. So 15, there were 15 moves, we'll say, of moving around domains. So 15 questions were maybe incorrectly slotted.
Yes.
Okay.
I think I'm following you.
May I just ask, this is Robert, the staff for the board, setting aside the complaints about the change in the handbook itself, can you speak to, if I'm remembering correctly, and certainly I miss some emails, but I don't believe we were notified as a board about any of this until we were getting complaints from test takers. And I just wondered why, it sounds like you were putting out information to the test takers, but that information didn't come to the membership boards for AMFTRB.
In September, at the annual meeting, the results of the job role delineation study were reported, and there were representatives from your board to that meeting. So in that report, the annual report, given for we go half year to half year, that information was contained in that September issue. However, to the point of whether or not immediately in January, we wrote to all the state boards and said, this occurred in the handbook. What we did is we went to the candidates who we knew had experienced the handbook, and that was the first priority of where we sent the information. We also posted it on our website for state boards, and then as states inquired, sent emails to the states that we knew might have questions and that were a part of the concern raised by the form letters that you guys got, as well as we got, and have dealt with it on a state-by-state basis from that point.
And that I might just encourage going forward when something like this happens. Certainly understand that your first stop is going to be to email the candidates and work with them. But at the point at which you as a group are deciding we're going to need to take some kind of remedial action here and give people a free exam, that might have been the moment to email all of the state boards to say, hey, this may come up, you may hear about this, and proactively let us know what's going on.
Yes.
To clarify just a little bit the process, when a student takes the exam results are sent to the board, to BHEC.
The exam results are sent first to the state, yes, but they're also sent to the candidate.
Okay, but it's a pass-fail. So we know how many who took this exam during this time period failed?
In Texas, yes.
I have reports for Texas.
Okay. And how many? Or just ballpark?
I think I saw it a second ago.
I think the real question is what percent fail versus that normally fail, but I think we've got that in the data, right?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna display it because it's easier that way. So in January, there were 31 candidates. The passing percentage was 55%, and you can see that's not much different from the previous January. The column on the far right is 2026. In February, the number of candidates was 52 with a passing percentage rate of 56, which is a bit higher than the previous February. March, 47 with a percentage rate of 55, again a bit higher than the previous March. And then I recently added April, number of candidates was 46, and that's pretty much even with a 63% passage rate.
I'm curious. This is getting too much into the weeds. The thing I was curious about would be the number of first-time test takers versus repeat test takers, because usually there's a substantial difference between first-time test takers and repeat test takers and that pass rate. And so I guess I'd be curious about that too, but
I probably don't have that in front of me, but I can get it for you.
okay, that might be interesting just to get.
And if you're unable to, Sarah, we can help find that for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for our guest? Thank you for attending.
Absolutely, and thank you. And if I might say on item number 5, if that's appropriate at this moment, we do have a research budget line item and have looked, it's an in-house research group, but we have looked at what we consider the 3 requirements of getting licensed in any state: the educational requirements, the exam, and the post-degree supervised experience hours. And we currently, with PTC, have been looking at, number 1, the pass-fail candidates for the last 3 years and what distinguishes passing and failing, and are about to conduct some focus groups with that. We've heard from all of the candidates who failed and passed that we sent surveys to in the last 3 years. Secondly, we've been working on this supervision piece and are aware of Lisa's work, which has been great, and are willing to continue to talk with her more about how that might be interested in help to continue, because our third area has been working with the Kansas State Board and their workforce issues. They have a different scoring method that they use in their state, and we're trying to look at them with them at their body of people who score and pass at, they use an old social work model of, they have 2 pass points. They use ours for your clinically independent practice, and they use a different pass point for people who will stay under supervision. And so if you're interested and have a specific thing, we're happy to hear from you. But
I would say provide that information to staff, and then we can look at it later to figure out how we can leverage
that's
that.
great. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there an action we need to take on this, or was it just a discussion?
Well, I mean, several candidates who did not fail asked that we consider a remedy.
Beyond the remedy they provided?
Yes.
Okay.
Candidates that did not pass, the ones that passed don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And there is no remedy that the board can give.
Correct, that's what I thought.
Sir, if I may.
Exactly. You can't arbitrarily tell people they passed.
Right, but that's why it was on the agenda.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to skip 9 and go to 10 and then come back to 9, if that's okay with you. Can we do that? 10, can we move to 10?
All right, so rule proposals, you don't have any adoptions to consider this time around. And proposals largely fall into 2 categories. One are some rule proposals to update the definition of technology-assisted services. Effectively, what we've done is realize the original definition was really aimed at defining virtual practice, because that was the content that it was focused on. And so we have added the term virtual services and virtual practice to mean providing services through a virtual medium. And now we are recommending having the definition for technology supported services instead of the word assisted to more broadly describe when a licensee is using some sort of technological tool to enhance their provision of services in their practice. And this could be AI, this could include web-based services, cloud-based services, budget tools, things that they use to operate their business in a way that is facilitating their practice. And so that's just an umbrella term to mean you are using some sort of technological services, devices, tools to enhance your provision of services. And so the rule changes for 801.2, 801.44, 801.53, 801.58, and 801.142 are all bringing the rules in line with those 2 concepts. It fundamentally doesn't change the requirements or the use of those services. It doesn't prohibit the use. It doesn't add any requirements, really just definitionally clearing up the language. So we're using terms that are more appropriate for the modern age of all these different technologies.
Which 4 did you say? 801.2, 801.58, 801.142, 801.
801.44, 801.44.
801.44.
And I cannot remember if 801.53 also, it has another change.
I think that one's slightly different. I think that one is to.
That's another, I couldn't remember if it also had that.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, I can just go through again, and you can take all of these in one motion?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, that should be that. The changes proposed in 801.47, all the rest of these sort of come from the last vestiges of the 4-year rule review and ideas that were brought up. 801.47 adds the idea that just as a licensee cannot encourage illegal drug use by clients, They also can't do it to their supervisor or supervisee. That's, you know, illegal drug use is illegal drug use, don't be a part of it.
It should be.
That is a given, but we're just making sure it's
It's about to be.
That's not something that's allowed.
Okay, does illegal drug use include things like, like sharing your medication with someone? Like if it's not prescribed?
Well,
If it was a prescription drug, possibly.
possibly.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's like a prescription.
Tylenol, no.
No, but
Yeah,
a
if,
controlled substance.
you know, and here again, I guess it'd be sort of for our licensees listening. If you are some of these folks who don't use all your antibiotics and you save them to give to your kid, and like, don't do that, that's bad. But we're not gonna, that's not a licensing matter, we're not gonna prosecute you for that, like that's, whether that's illegal. You hoard your leftover OxyContin and then give them to a client or sell them to a client, or, yeah, that's
Or a
bad.
supervisee.
Or a supervisee or supervisor, yeah, that's,
Or a board member.
that we're gonna, yes.
That's not in here.
Don't do that.
Don't be saying that. That's not in here.
It's all right, I'm gonna skip number 4 and come back to it, it's the largest of the bunch. 801.53 on advertising and announcements is just expanding the wording a little bit to make sure that advertising in whatever form you're using, including on social media or electronically, is subject to the restrictions on advertising and announcements, and you can't lie and mislead people, commit fraud, whatever medium you're using. 801.54 on research and publications is just adding a clarification that when using any sort of human subjects in research, you have to follow the federal and state laws applicable to that. Again, that's already true, you already had to do that, this is just making it clear, don't forget you have to follow those laws. And then lastly, 801.49, number 4 there on your list, is the idea of adding language around what needs to be the basis of your professional judgment and competency. This idea came from looking across the board's rules and questions we frequently get about which type of assessment am I allowed to use? How much training do I need to have to be able to do EMDR? Things that get into the weeds that we as staff certainly can't answer. We took language largely from the psychology board that already had a lot of this language dealing with assessments, but also across the rules, and created a holistic rule that would speak to, here are the fundamental guidelines that we are going to use as boards to determine, were you sufficiently trained and competent? Did you have a sufficient basis for your judgment? Now, I will say, we have proposed this language for the social work board and counselor board, as well as tweaks to the psychology board's rules. The social work board voted to approve and post it and is sending it to the BHEC meeting. The LPC board and the psychology board declined. They did not like this rule.
What did they not like about it?
Largely, the LPC board felt their existing rule language was sufficient. And they did not think there was a problem that needed to be addressed. Because by and large, your rules, their rules already ensure the concepts of you must be competent to provide the services you're providing, and you should not provide services to someone when it does not benefit them. And they felt like those two broad principles were sufficient umbrellas to cover all manner of sins.
Yeah, but what was brought up during the psychology board meeting was a long discussion about Childs v. Salazar and how it may impact a lot of the rules we're writing. This was written before that opinion was published, and after reviewing the Supreme Court decision and looking at these rules, there's a lot of questions that have been raised. And so Daryl can chime in this as well if you'd like, but I think one of the things with the social work board rule that's coming up is we're gonna do a lot of reviewing of it, and also I've read the opinion. I'm probably gonna read it 5 more times to make sure I fully understand it, but likely after looking at it, likely what probably needs to be done is further analysis and examination of that opinion along with this rule. And so we'll likely probably recommend to BHEC that we not propose that rule, but we send it back and do further analysis based on that Supreme Court precedent, because as constructed, there might need to be tweaks to make it comply with that. And so it's one of those things where you can go forward with it, but I think as the social work board, but I think we'll probably have to tell BHEC, hey, we maybe need to pump the brakes. It's not a bad idea, because frankly, I was involved heavily in writing a lot of this. But after looking at this, a lot of questions have been raised, and I don't know that we have great answers. And so we can't say with complete confidence that it completely complies with that Supreme Court precedent. So that's sort of the issue where we're at right now with it.
Can you point to anything in here specifically offhand that you feel like might not fit with Childs and Salazar?
Yeah, probably when it starts with F, I think, is that one of the parts, Daryl, that you're talking about? The honest answer to your question is I think the whole thing needs to be kind of evaluated and really kind of run through it. One of the things that we had talked about is I think F was one of the ones, and honestly that language is already in. So when I say wrote this, I mean heavily plagiarized psychology board rules, but a lot of those are already existing. A lot of these are already existing in psychology board's rules. So. I personally liked a lot of what was behind this. I just think there needs to be maybe more thought or consideration before it's adopted. That's my only hesitance in recommending it right now.
And a point of clarification on, again, I am not an attorney, nor do I play one on TV. But I noticed that there's a must on some of these. There's a may not. How do those carry weight?
And they are intentional. So we do when we phrase things, the must is a shall or a must, as in you must do this thing, and a may is may in this context is usually if you choose to do this thing, you must do so in a correct way, but you're not required to. Or may only, is you may only do this if you meet this standard. We're not saying you have to do it, just if you do it, you have to meet the standard.
Okay, so like on G, where it says licensees may not evaluate any individual's mental and emotional unless the licensee either personally interviews. Is there a reason that's a may not as opposed to a must not?
Maybe because it has the or?
You generally don't, legal writing, you generally don't say must not.
Okay. Won't.
Must not, you may not unless, a must not is probably
you
more
must
of a.
not?
The law is about telling you what you can and can't do, not what, it's just the way we kind of write. It's not, you mustn't do this, it's you may not do it.
See, I'm just a dad. I'm not a lawyer. But no, that's good because, the may not evaluate to me is, you just can't do that. You can't diagnose someone that you haven't.
So it sounds like a may not is the negative form of must. Right?
Generally.
Is that,
yes.
okay, good, see? I'm gonna get my law degree by the time I finish all of this stuff. And one other thing, on item C, after it says licensee may only provide first undertaking appropriate study, training, supervision, or consultation, would you consider adding certification as another line item? Because there are some assessment tools that you can be trained to do prior to being certified, or you can have the level of certification as well.
Sure. Yeah, I would say if you are certified, it would comport with what the requirements of that rule is. I think it's written more broadly, but certification would fall under appropriate study or training, so.
Good. Well, I think in the spirit of stating the obvious, as we seem to be doing, I would recommend that.
And so
Do I understand, Dr. Barty, that you're saying in some assessments, you can receive training, but you're not actually supposed to perform the assessment until you receive certification?
Yes.
So it's like a two-step process?
Correct.
So if they're saying, if this rule says you must receive the appropriate training, but does not say certification, does that create a loophole in your mind?
In my mind, it does.
Okay.
Because you can be trained without being certified.
You can do a 3-hour training on EMDR, for example, and not be trained to give EMDR.
No, you can be trained, but not certified.
Well,
you can't
trained is actually the level at
Yeah.
EMDR, but doing a
Right.
3-hour training in EMDR, you're not trained in EMDR, you went on a training.
Couldn't advertise yourself as trained in EMDR unless you do the 40-hour INFORMATIONal course.
Right.
And our goal was not to, obviously, we could not write a rule that got into the level of specificity needed for each type of training and type of process and type of judgment. So we were trying to enshrine the core principles to guide licensees. But this very discussion dips the toe in the water of why we probably need to take this back and work on it a little more, because we don't want people disagreeing with about how to read the rule, and particularly when it comes to making judgments about what is professionally appropriate, both in terms of knowledge and judgment, when there are disagreements in the community about what is all right and what's not okay. Based on Childs v. Salazar, we need to make sure it is clear that while the board regulates the provision of services and professional standards, we do not regulate First Amendment viewpoints. And so we need to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, I was really curious about on F, like, what if the science and the profession disagrees? You know, so, yeah.
Okay, so you have motions?
Are we just tabling it for now?
You can simply ignore it and just make a motion for all the others besides that one.
I'll make a motion that we accept all of the changes proposed with the exception of 801.49.
A second.
Motion and a proper second.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Unanimous passage.
And we don't need to make a motion that you guys are gonna rework this and bring it back to us. You're just gonna rework it and bring it back to us.
It's on our list.
You guys are great.
Final agenda item of the day, item number 9.
All right, so this is an unusual one. We don't often bring you enforcement matters midstream, but on occasion, there are complaints that come before us that for whatever reason, for procedural postures, parties involved, the dynamics involved, we as staff don't feel that it's appropriate for us to make the decision to dismiss. And so instead, we bring it to you with the recommendation to dismiss. This complaint was heard at an ISC. Dr. Barty and Mrs. Reyna, Mrs. L, were at the ISC. Because this is a dismissal and not a disciplinary judgment, y'all are not recused. You're welcome to, should you desire. Dr. Merchant, I believe you are recused in this one. Because it is a dismissal posture, it is still confidential under our rules. So while the board may discuss in general the appropriate action to take, I must ask that you not refer to any of the allegations specifically or parties involved. That is confidential and may not be shared in a public forum. Patrick and I will jump in as best we can to navigate that. I know it's a weird posture. And we'll answer any questions.
The only thing I would like to add is I think the ISC panel members would probably be best for them to recuse probably for this, since they've already reviewed the matter. So that would be my suggestion. Yeah.
All right. So we would need 3 recusals in this matter. And so other than the folks who are recused and just have to wait for the rest of us, if there are any board members that have any questions, obviously it has been reviewed, it is recommended for dismissal, and otherwise.
I have no questions. Questions from anyone?
I have no questions.
Go, no questions.
I'm happy to make a motion to
Please.
dismiss.
Second? Second?
Second.
Okay. Motion to proper second. Ready for question?
Oh, I'm just gonna vote for it. Yep, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm assuming I can't vote.
Passed.
So I
Unanimous passing.
I did.
So the final item on the agenda is, are there any agenda items for the next board meeting? We don't have to put them forth today, we can always do that later, but are there any agenda items that we know of that we want to put on the September board meeting?
Well, it sounds like 3 committees, like that's something that we want on the
Yes.
agenda.
This isn't an agenda item necessarily, but you were talking about AI and like AI research, and that just reminded me that I thought VHEC was going to form a subcommittee for AI. I think we discussed that maybe 2 meetings ago. Did that ever happen?
That was a committee if we needed to develop the standards for
Oh, the sandbox.
Program. Yeah, but we haven't been called upon by DIR to do that. So.
Okay.
Quick question, the September meeting, is that here?
At this point in time, it's scheduled earlier.
Okay, good change.
Did you mention the day?
I'm sorry?
Did you mention the day?
September.
25?
That's what I have seen, October 1st.
That's for next
That's next year, that's 2027.
next year.
Yeah, September 20th.
2027.
We won't be having it, we're having one this year.
You'll get an email from Sarah.
Yeah.
Maybe more than one.
I actually have a follow-up question, it's okay, it's not about the agenda, but Robert, I have a follow-up question, or anybody in staff, because I haven't upgraded my license in a hot minute. You mentioned earlier, somebody that is an associate cannot set up a CE broker account, that's right?
Correct.
So when they take the jurisprudence exam and they apply to upgrade, do they just attach that in the system?
So
Yeah.
generally, they're taking the jurisprudence exam before their associate license is issued.
Yes.
And they take the jurisprudence exam before they apply for upgrade.
Mhm.
So that means when their upgrade license is issued, when the independent license is issued, that's where the renewal period starts.
Mhm.
And that jurisprudence exam would have been taken before the renewal period.
My question was more around like, how are they proving that they took the jurisprudence? That was, because I've uploaded mine into
Because
CE broker.
CE broker's only for renewal. For license
Understood.
application, they still gotta send it to us.
Got it, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry if I jumped on your toes.
Gee.
Is that it?
I
There's no other questions or comments, criticism, is there a motion for dismissal,
For adjournment?
for adjournment?
So I move we adjourn
Any second?
until September.
The second?
Second.
Motion and proper second? All right, adjourned.
Bravo.
For that.
Good first meeting.
Yes, exactly, good first meeting.